Right. Today I thought maybe not grease pencil, but Feedback Friday. I have forgotten it a bit, and people were asking and posting about Feedback Friday. So, as people used the function, so you shall have. So today I'll look at your stuff that you asked for. I will talk about it while painting something random. This random thing I will be painting is probably, most likely, will be shit in the end, because I'm going to try to talk about theory and explain theory while I'm trying to be creative. So most cases on a Feedback Friday is whatever I'm drawing is roadkill. It's absolutely horrible, but nevertheless, that's not the purpose on a Feedback Friday, but the purpose is to give you some pointers. Hey Örjan, how's it going? Nice to see you back. Welcome back to civilization. Bruno Romanos, what's happening? Shartha, what's up? Cuddly trash panda, how's it going? Hey Stones, what's up? Captain Bounce. We are blessed with another Friday of Captain Bounce. Work. Oh yeah, all right. You're a cuddly trash panda, Shartha. Oh, that's fantastic. The question is, who's not a cuddly trash panda? All right, let's start a timer. I'm gonna paint something random. Shartha, you feel a bit sick? That's the season, isn't it? So this one, who was that from? Montana. Hey, Tony. And Vale. Another member just posted, and I posted a little bit late, but nevertheless, I'm gonna put it in. Quick, eat an orange. Yeah. Apple actually don't help against colds. You need vitamin C. And lots of it. Anyways, so I'm gonna paint something on my side of the screen here. I'm gonna switch over to another scene so you can see. There we go. Nice lag. So looking at yours, Montana, I would say overall it's a great start. It's a little bit hard to understand which material is which, and due to that, everything turns into the same kind of mush. I think skin and ears and the separation there in tone and behavior is great. We can start sensing the difference, but then the rest of the painting, it all becomes the same. I think it's great that you're using purples and cool grays in the ambient light. It helps a lot. It really helps, especially on the color there. It really helps sell the volume and makes it less flat and boring and kind of washed out. One thing you should watch out for though is that your palette is getting quite wide, and like let's say the green and the purple and the pink and so on, and the orange, and they're not really harmonized that well. And by that I mean like the oranges and the background like wine red and the cool purples and pinks, they are not going together that well. And then you add the green, which is a very kind of cool green, and it all just becomes a bit chaotic. So what you should do is try to harmonize them a little bit, and the arms especially and the oranges are or the warm tones are competing against the cool purples and pinks. So you need to choose which is the primary palette and then harmonize the colors accordingly. Hey Sarah Skimp, how's it going? So on the left, on the right, I'm painting some random stuff while talking about your work, everyone that posted on the Discord, writing FF Feedback Friday. So right side is going to be horrific. I have no idea. I'm just moving my hand more or less. Anyways, so material separation. I think form reads well. Material separation is important. You know, like what material is shinier and less shiny. Texture differences. Hey Tony. Yeah, you missed the beginning of it. And Tony, yeah, there is a little bit earlier from when you arrived here now. But anyway, so material differences. Anyways, the second one is the cloud is very. They don't feel like clouds, and they are flattening the image. You need to study the volumetrics of clouds and how they align, especially align to like the atmosphere and the sky, and how to depict them correctly. Because at the moment your sunset or sunrise is together with the clouds is flattening the whole image, and which goes into the sun itself, which is like a bright gradient on a dark background, and when you do that, it turns into very mushy, milked out values and hues. So what you want to do is that you, like if you go look back on Monday study where I was talking about studying fire, and that you have to build the image up to the point where the fire will come across as fire. The same goes with, let's say, a sunset like that, is that you can't do like a one brush solution to something that's so complex. And if you actually look at the sunset, all the gradients of the colors and so on, you can like almost scientifically explain why they are the way they are, why they are going through air pollution and so on, and why they get the temperature they do. Hey Fizzyberry, thank you very much for the raid, all 20 of you. Why am I always getting raided when I'm doing Feedback Friday and I'm painting something horrific that's just gonna look like an absolute noob? But nevertheless, thank you very much for the raid. It is truly appreciated. Thank you. Young boy? Well, I'm not a young boy. I'm an old man. Hey, Fizzyberry. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Right, so the gradient on the sunset is off. That one. It has to be more complex. Fizzyberry, it's not mine. It's something I call Feedback Friday, and it's anyone on the Discord who posts hashtag FF. I'll give them feedback. So currently, I'm talking about M Tonys in the chat. Turn out I look like a young boy. Shit, thank you. I got carded the other day, by the way, the other week. They're like, how old are you? Can I see your like identification? Dude. It was like your entire lifetime ago I was 18. Like, thank you. Anyways, back to feedback. Another thing that breaks the image is the motion blurred background element. You can't just blur. You have to consider what the blurring is and why is something in motion blur in terms of camera, right? Motion blur is because it's not tracking. The camera is not tracking with the object. So the object is moving in a different rate than what you're focusing in on, right? So the unfocused, more or less, motion unfocused. So when everything is equal and your character is not moving and the background is not moving, that means the objects are moving, but they're all moving at the same speed and the same kind of applied motion blur, and it makes the illusion, it makes you on initial glance, oh, they're moving, right? But then when on a second glance they're broken. You need to be more considerate with how you do it. Eternal lady, yeah. Right, so that's that. And materials, palette, clouds, gradient of the sun, motion blur, particles. That needs to be better. Next person to the old chopping block. Mae is doing this one. So let's give it some feedback. Antonio, my pleasure, my pleasure. Boris? Who is Boris? Anyways, so back to Maze. I think overall it's a very nice palette. I like the choice of green and purple, cyan and cyan and orange. It's starting to come across really nice. The diagonal in the background isn't helping the image that much, together with the very, very vertical pillars, which makes the image stiff, especially because all the lines in the image with the web, I guess it's spider web, they intersect with a very strong vertical line, and you're getting a lot of focus on the vertical lines, and webbing and vertical line hotspot, rather than the image where we should look. Where it does work better is when the values and colors are more subtle and they're not so generically applied. They're more considerated, and I made that word up. And it does have a more like you put some effort into how they are applied. And on the right side, they are a little bit more shadow light, just plop down, right? And it ruins first of all, it ruins the depth and ruins the mood of the painting, and distracts from the character. I think in the head and hands, you're starting to get some really good modeling going, as in form, right? And how the form wraps in perspective and in conjunction with the light and so on. It's starting to look really, really nice. I would like to see you spend a little bit more time modeling the finer differences in form, especially on the hands. Don't zoom in while you do this. have it somewhat zoomed out, and when you are gonna add details to the hands and face and so on, look up reference and look up the subtleties of volume change. Then look at the face that you're gonna paint on, and then consider temperature changes. So it's not just a binary gradient from the shadow color to the light color. You know, like if you look at let me swap. My apologies. You're gonna look a bit closer to my face, but like there's green, there's pinks, there like cool highlights, there are purples, browns, greens. But in theory, it's just skin, right? But there is difference in blood. There's different in light. There's different in form, and the same like here versus here is they're both pointing to the same angle of the form, but here is absolutely different than here because of underlying structure, underlying blood flow, and so on. So you need to take these in consideration when you're painting. You can build the image up like you have to a point, but then you need to start putting those subtleties in, which will make the painting significantly better and significantly stronger. And those are the things that if you, I remember you wrote that this is a portfolio piece. So those are the things that matter, and those are the things that when you're pushing a piece for your portfolio, is that you really take a step back, consider, you know, like edge quality, lighting. Where are you breaking the image? You know, try to remove as many flaws as you can, and take your time and really take the opportunity to study things that you really don't know well and apply them to the portfolio piece, because portfolio pieces are, you have to consider, you have to see them like I always try to imagine, like no one knows anything about you, and they will see this piece, and this piece should represent, if it's in your portfolio, it should represent each and every part of your skill set to the very best, and it should not be acceptable. It should be at the tip of the spear, right? It should be as good as you can make it. And if that means a lot of hard work on your end, really push it, and you know, maybe even restart or remove big pieces of the painting to make it better. You have to do that, because if it's going into your portfolio, it has to be like, see it as a handshake to strangers that have zero idea who you are, and you are not there to explain anything about it. They are just going to look at your image, right? And so it has to represent a lot of things. Hey Gria and Ricky, how's it going? Anyways, so if we look at the modeling of the head and hands and then the body is falling very, very flat, and it's almost like you haven't considered the 3D aspect of his body, and you've only spent time considering the 3D aspect of his head and hands. For example, if I would just do like this. Oh shit. No layer. Anyways. You know, like there's a pool of light hitting his shoulder. Ah, crap, I should have made a layer. Anyway, so we're now starting to see the depth of the character, right? We're starting to see where his body is in space. And without it, the body just became like a billboard, and you don't want that. And like I said before, you need to consider all aspects of the painting and not detail everything just for the sake of detailing it. What's the purpose of it being there? What's the purpose of the light being the way it is? You know, what's the story behind it? Why is it there? Do I really need to explain every little aspect of his of the pillars there, or are they only there for supporting the story? You know, I don't know. But you have to take a step back, evaluate, and then refine. Hey, Blind Coyote, how's it going? What up? All right, so next thing. And again, to reiterate, my painting on the right, horrific as always. When I'm doing feedback, it just turns into something ugly. You're in inventory hell. Ooh, you're prepping. Nice, nice. Right, so this was made by Montana. Hey, Tony, another one of yours. Who is your... Okay, blindness. I'll give you one more chance. Rewrite that sentence correctly. I don't want to play a puzzle game. I'll happily answer, but rewrite it so that I don't need to sit and play some like guessing game. So Montana, looking at this one, I think is great. I think overall the shapes read well, but if we look at it closer, the biggest thing that stands out is that all materials, every single material is explained the same way. And what that does is that even though there is difference in color, even though there is difference in shapes, it all comes across like the same thing. And you don't want that, right? Because you've spent time designing the character with different materials, but you rendered it all in the same way. So you're removing all that hard work because you're not following through, right? So what you want to do is find reference or think about what the materials are in more consideration. And in my latest, one of my latest lectures at Berlin, TAD Berlin, was one part of it was I discussed tone in art direction. You know, like take the example, you can retexture every single model in Toy Story and then color grade the movie, and you can get easily a horror movie out of it. Not by changing a single asset, but just changing the way the materials are represented and then the grading on top, right? Blindness, no worry, just rewrite the sentence, try it a little bit better to write the question. I will happily answer. It's just that I can't sit and guess what you're trying to say, right? It's nothing negative, or I don't try to put you on the spot or anything. Just if you wouldn't mind, rewrite that sentence so I can just read it. Which I learned a lot from. Blindness. I have a more or less a top 5, top 10 list that are always, people are always removed from and added from. I call it my hit list, and it's artists that are superior to me that I always chase. And when I meet their level, according to me, they get killed and removed from the list, and I add another one. So I'm constantly moving up. But some of the old guard of concept art I absolutely love, like Marko Djurdjevic, Alexei Briclot, butchered his name. I mean, I've always had a thing for Craig Mullins and Feng. There's so many artists, but I try to be more inspired by other artists' creativity rather than dissect what they do and learn from it. I rather go, oh shit, okay, they stepped up their game, so I need to try to match that in my end. So I try not to learn from others in that sense, rather than teach myself. Triangle. Yeah, exactly. Artist hit list. Miguel, how's it going? Right, so back to Montana. Tony. Materials are all the same, like I mentioned. The shapes are also very even. If you think about your design as a basic shapes, and if you think of it like you're a computer, like the Terminator scanning eye, like right, going up and down the character. A lot of the distances of the shapes are the same. Like, let's do a test. I'm gonna do a new layer and have that size of that shape, right? The head, it's there, it's there. The distance between those are there. The distance between those are there. The distance there, more or less the head size. The horn, more or less the belt, more or less the feet, more or less those horns, more or less those horns. So there's a lot of similar sized shapes. And one big no-no in character design is when your shape designs are even or too cluttered. So in your case, you have done them too even and too cluttered. So, rip. No, but it's important that you're aware of these things, especially if you're designing characters and spending time designing something, is that you gotta have a good material separation. You need more than two materials usually to make it really an interesting design and giving you contrast to play with, scope to play with in terms of complexity and focal points, right? You want a good selection of it. So that in that sense also, thirdly on your design is that your materials are they behave the same way. They are come across as flat. You have an issue with your gradient, with your rendering material in gradient wise. Like if on this metal, for example, like metal never have the same smooth gradient as, let's say, cotton. Cotton has almost like a perfect gradient in like from shadow to light, while skin, you can see, doesn't have the perfect gradient. It has like a capped gradient. So from some point the shininess is going to take over and is going to group the volumes in a separate from the non-shiny part, right? And then phone, right? The gradient you can see on the window or the metal, right? It's even more clamped. It's even more like light, dark, and that's what I'm like explaining here on the right on my painting is like to make it feel like shiny material, it needs to have contrast, and that's why you should have, for example, have more than one material in your design so that you can give contrast to what you're trying to explain. If that makes sense. Iglesias. Well, I'm glad. Sorry, I have a frog in my throat or whatever it's called. It's good that you can't sustain that level of hard work or a longer period of time. So now it's time to relax. Don't do any work. Recharge those batteries. Um, take a walk. Vanity's Fall. Um, and Vanity's Fall, how to help with that is that you study materials. Uh, like I did on this Monday, where I studied fire and I applied fire, I built fire. I didn't copy the image of fire. I tried to understand the fire and the process of creating fire while painting it, um, in order for me to be able to paint it on one of my sculpts, right? So it's the same idea. If you're gonna paint metal, don't copy the paint, or if you're gonna study material of metal, don't copy the photo of metal. Understand why is it actually looking like, why is metal looking this way, and then what happens, like take metal in your hand and go like, oh, okay, it's like a mirror, but it's bent. That's why there's long highlights on this coffee boiler. Okay, I get it. And you can start figuring out, and if you don't figure it out, you will never be able to paint it from your mind. If you don't understand something, you can't paint it. You can fake it, but there will always be a point where it's obvious that you're faking it and you're not understanding it. M. Tony, you have to draw a thumbnail version of this. You have to practice seeing big, medium, and small shapes. Value design the same way. Do them small thumbnails to practice. What's a good relationship between shapes? Over and over and over. Yeah, exactly. So if you want to learn metal, look at metal, but don't copy the painting, but do your own version, but apply metal to it. All right. So this last one, I will go a little bit over my half an hour, but this one was of shit. Who was it? Just now. Hey, did you remove it? Who was he? The name. You got ninja mode. But yeah, it's a lot of the same things. The color palette thing is great. Um, the shapes are actually not that bad. You definitely need to learn how to paint with color. Your palette is very, very muddy. You're rendering from to one color to the tone to the wash to black as shadow, and you should never do that. On the thumbnails, they're looking good because you're not painting volumes, or you're painting light information, and this is clearly where you are not skilled enough in. So what you got to do is you got to practice from this to that, but you also have to be more comfortable with light and how light works and what happens with cloth when it's in shadow, what happens with metal when it's in shadow. You also need to learn to separate lit side from shadow side, and what that does to color temperature and material behavior. Let's say you have a wet water ball, like a sphere of water, and one part of it is in shadow, one part of it is hit by light. What will happen is that the part that's hit by light will reflect the surrounding. The part of the water ball that's in shadow will be transparent. You will see through it significantly more. That's why, for example, you can see through water. If you see water and a tree, and the tree is casting a shadow on the water, and the other part of the water has sunlight on it, the sunlight is going to be reflective. You're going to see a lot of super high highlights, but the part of the water that's in shadow, you're going to see through the water. You're going to see the root system, and you're going to see down into the water, and that alone will change how you should render the colors, the shininess, volumetrics, the temperature shifts, all these things. And then what if there's cloth there as well? What happens to cloth when it's in shadow? What happens to metal when it's in shadow? Metal, is the metal reflective? How reflective? Um, you know, what happens when metal is shiny but it's not shiny because it's in shadow? How do I paint that? What happens to the colors of the metal when that happens? And all these things. So those are the things you got to study, which shows a lot that you don't understand. Design you're pretty good at, but the technical aspect of painting is something you're a big flaw in, and that could be easily remedied by practicing, studying, and don't copy. Tony, no, it's easy mistake to do. Right. So that's Feedback Friday. So if you want to have next Friday your painting sawn in half by me, join the Discord and hashtag FF. Every Friday I will look at whatever's been hashtag FF on Share Your Art, and I will give feedback while I'm painting something. I don't know what I painted. It's horrible. But hopefully the feedback made sense. Hopefully you can take the push I gave you in a direction and consider it and then dive deeper into it, because I haven't given you the answer, right? I have given you the direction where the answer is, and you got to do the hard work yourself. So now, as per tradition, we're gonna raid someone. And for all you new people who join from the raid, it's a daily stream at the exact same time for half an hour. So if you want to join in, just come back minus 30 minutes on Monday morning. It's a constantly the same time for half an hour. So if you like what you heard, you're more welcome to come back. Now we will raid someone. Give them some love. Oh, someone doing material studies. Perfect. Perfect. Let's raid. Alright. We're gonna raid someone doing material studies. Wicked. Perfect timing. Right. Have a great day, everyone. Good night. It's not boob material. I think it's blood orange at the moment. Have a great day. We'll see you on Monday morning or over the weekend. I don't know yet. But outro time and then raid, so don't go anywhere. Thanks everyone for the support and raid and chat and all these things. Tools.